May the learning of the Torah that we do today be in the Zuchut of Am Yisrael, our Chayalim and our Chatofim, and also at the same time may the Shu'ur be a Refuah Shalema for Sonia Bat Riva. In Parshat Chayei Sarah, we see fascinating points that each and every one of us has to live with and try to incorporate into our own lives. Because a lot of times, Rabotai, when we live in this world, is something which is very fascinating. That there is life and there is the staged life. What we want people to think of us, what we want people to perceive us. We're one way in the house, but we are another way outside completely. Sometimes we're no longer living. It's almost all the time we're staging an act to make sure what people think of us. And we want to try to see today what's really important. What does Hashem really want? And to know what Hashem wants from us, there's only one way and one way only. And that is the Torah way. Anything which is outside the Torah is not the way. Rabotai, it's needless to say, if you learn anything from the media or from anywhere else, you might tell me, yes, Rabbi, you don't understand. I watch Instagram, I watch YouTube, I watch Twitter, I watch this, I watch Reels. I learn things from it. You might be right. I'm not going to disagree with you. But everything that they take comes from the Torah. Comes from the Jewish people. Comes from our Chachamim, from our rabbis. So why do you have to go through the middleman? Why don't you go directly to the Torah, to the source of life? And that's why we want to try to learn from our mother, Rabotai, Sarah. In the parsha where it says, "Vayu chayei Sarah me'ashana ve'esrim shana ve'sheva shanim shenei chayei Sarah." Comes Rav Tzadka and he brings the sefer which he quotes. I can't recall the sefer, but it's Rav Menashe, Harav HaGaon Rav Menashe Tzadka Shlita from the Shul of Tov, and he brings a small point, and he says it doesn't make sense. "Vayu chayei Sarah me'ashana ve'esrim shana ve'sheva shanim shenei chayei Sarah." 1 second. Was she alive or did she die? She had left this world at 127 years of age. So why is the Torah telling us, and these were the lives of Sarah? 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years. Why do you speak about a person's life when they are actually dead? Comes Rav Menashe Tzadka Shlita and he says a powerful, Rabotai, a one-liner. Because real life is the next life. Real life is eternal life. Not this life, what we think. This life that Chazal tell us in Pirkei Avot is only a preparation for the next world. But unfortunately, too many of us, we make this world the most important world. And we forget about what's going to be in our spiritual world. Rabotai, in my humble opinion, I always educate my kids or anybody else that I come in contact with. If what we're doing is so important, why didn't the Gedolim do it? Why didn't the great rabbis of our generation do it? Why didn't they spend that time into working and into making parties and into everything else? Why didn't they waste their time? Why were they so connected to Torah? Why were they so connected to Hashem and His mitzvot? Why? Rabotai, okay, let's put it like this. Let's just make it, I hope that everybody knows who Chacham Avadia is. Or Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita, or Rav David Yosef Shlita, or Rav Chaim Kanievsky, or the Ben Ish Chai, or Rabbi Pinchas Scheinberg, or Rabbi Shmuel Birnbaum. I suspect you guys have an idea what means a rabbi, correct? What means the Gidon that we have. Or Rav Chaim, we have Rabbi Kamenetsky. We have over here in Brooklyn, Rabotai, we have over here in our Rabbi Yisrael Belsky Shlita, Zatzal, actually he was Nifter. We have Rabotai Gidon. I suspect, or I will assume that you guys know what means great rabbis. Okay, let's put it to you like this. I'll just take one of them. Chacham Ovadia, because he was world renowned. If what we're doing is so important, why didn't Chacham Ovadia do it? Why did he do it? Why did he dedicate his whole life to Torah Mitzvot and to the service of Hashem? Why? Because the Chaim Ovadia and every other gadol for that fact understood that real life is the next world, not this world. What you have over here is only temporary, it's only fleeting. Rabotai, this is what we don't understand. We can't seem to see that. And it's not our fault because we have so much that's entertaining us today. But the problem is that entertainment really going to help you get the next world? Or is it helping you for this world? Understand, Rabotai, are we really living our lives or are we staging our lives? Is it about the pictures? Is it about the video? Is it about how I look on the outside but in the inside there's turmoil? I don't have to tell you how many people outside they're known for X, Y, and Z, top of the line, the best, good person, Bal Chesed, whatever you want. In the inside of the house, he might be divorced, his kids are over there, they're not married, and so on. Rabotai, we have to start living and stop staging. And there's only one way to do it. That is through the lens of Torah. If it's not through the eyes of the Torah, we're doing something wrong. And that's what Rav Menashe Tzadko Shlita comes and he teaches a very big chiddush. What does it mean, Vayuchaye Sarah? What does it mean that it was the life of Sarah when she already died? That's life. When a person dies, life begins. When a person thinks that he's already alive, he thinks he's alive. No, Rabotai, that's not life. This is only preparation to life, which is the next world. Understanding that can help us move forward. How many of you call a wedding, and how many of you will call the preparation for the wedding a wedding? How many of us? Not one of us. A wedding is the main whole. What the kala, what the bride does before she gets married is not the wedding. That's preparation for the wedding. Good, but that's not the wedding. The wedding is when she gets married. Same thing with us. We're preparing to come to that day, to that final day after 120 years, B'ezrat Hashem, to meet HaKadosh Baruch in all our deeds, to get our reward. We're preparing for that moment. Until then, Rabotai, it's not called life. It's actually called preparation for life, and that's what Chayei Sarah is teaching us. And that's exactly, Rabotai, what we want to see today. How does one do it? How does one prepare for the next world? Look into Rashi. Rashi says something fascinating. Rashi says, mind-boggling Rashi. He says, "Lekach nichtav shana b'chol klal uklal." That's why it was written year, the word shana, year, in every single period of Sarah's life. Because it says, Me'ah shana, 100 years, Esrim shana, 20 years, Sheva shanim, 7 years. Just tell me 127 years. Whatever they tell me, 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years doesn't make sense. Rashi says, of course it makes sense. The Torah doesn't put, there's not even a letter, there's not even a nikuda, a vowel that's extra in the Torah. Because Rashi says, no, that's why it was written that way. Why? Lomar lach to tell you, Lomar lecha to tell you, Shekol echad nidrash latzmo, to come to teach us that every single period of her life comes to teach you something on its own. What does that mean? Bat me'ah, when it says when she was 100 years old, and then it says 20 years, and then it says 7 years, tells you why. Bat me'ah, 100 years, kebat esrim lechet. She was compared to a 20-year-old girl when it came to sin. Ma bat esrim lo chata'ah, just like a 20-year-old girl doesn't sin, shere'ena bat enoshim, because she cannot get punished. So too, a 100-year-old lady, she's also considered to be without sin. Meaning to say that whenever we say 100 years and 20 years, we want to compare the 100 year to the 20th year. Just like when Sarah Menu, when she was 20 years old, she was without sin because she cannot get punished until 20. A person cannot be punished until he's 20. So to have to say that Sarah Menu, when she was 100, she was also without sin. Continues Rashi, and Rashi says, Ubat esrim kebat sheva liyofi. Not. When she was 20 years old, she was like a 7-year-old girl when it came to beauty. He brings it down in Bereishis Rabbah in chapter 58, verse 1. Nunchet Aleph. Rabotai, I want to ask you a simple question, right? How does it make sense if I ask any normal person today, if you give me a 20-year-old girl and you give me a 7-year-old girl, who's more beautiful? Is it a 20-year-old girl or is it a 7-year-old girl? The answer is very simple. A 20-year-old girl is more beautiful. Why? She's fully developed. She's fully mature. And that's why Chazal tell us that a girl, once she already hits the age of 16, 17, she has to try to get married as soon as possible, because really what sells by a girl? Her beauty sells. That's why we want to try to get her married as soon as possible. That's why if you pay attention, what is it called? She's called a bride. Why is she called a bride? Very simple, because she bribes. Her beauty is able to bribe the guy to take her. In any event, Rabotai, that's a side point. But I'm asking you a simple question. Doesn't this Rashi bother you? How can you tell me a 20-year-old girl, Sarah Maine, was like a 7-year-old girl in beauty? Can't be. A 20-year-old girl is way more beautiful than a 7-year-old girl. Rabotai, as I was thinking about this, you have to say like this. It doesn't mean in her looks, in her attractions that she looked. When it says that Sarah Maine, a 20-year-old girl, she was like a 7-year-old girl when it came to beauty, comes to tell you she was beautiful in her deeds, in her masim tovim, what kind of lady she was. Understanding a very important factor from Sarah Mainu. A woman like Sarah Mainu, the whole Jewish nation came out of her. Why? Because she was beautiful in her deeds. Rabotai, what kind of deeds does Sarah Mainu have? Torah deeds, chesed. Abraham converted the man. Sarah converted the woman. From here we learn, Rabotai, how everything has to be separate. Men shouldn't get mingled with, men shouldn't start giving classes to women. Women shouldn't start giving classes to men. Rabotai, everybody has to do their due diligence. Everybody has to do their own part. Men with men, women with women. As simple as that. As much as you guys don't believe it, a lot, Rabotai, when Chazal, when Chachamim tell us these things, they know what they're saying. A lot of problems, a lot of stumbling blocks came out of this. A lot of divorces come out of this when men and women start mingling. You think it's nothing. What am I doing? There is something to it. If Chazal tell us there's something to it, this is not the sugar for that. But I wanted to bring out from over here, we see two important points. Point number one, Rabotai, a person's life really begins in the eternal life. Point number two, how do you get that eternal life? You have to learn from Sarah and Meinu. And what is that? You have to have beautiful deeds. And how are you going to have beautiful deeds? That's when you're going to do according to what the Torah requires of us. Rabotai, somebody tells me, comes out to me, right? That's my almost everyday conversation. Rabbi, if everybody comes tzinius, which means modest, if everybody comes modest to the party, can family sit together, right? That's the everyday conversation, whatever. Rabotai, I want to tell you something. What you see today, modest, is not modest. A woman that's wearing a pencil-tight skirt is not modest. If she has hair that highlighted and it's flying like Madonna or whoever you want to call her, that's not modest, Rabotai. That's not what the Torah requires of us. That's what you guys decided to make kosher. That's not kosher. The perfume that women put on themselves today, I don't know how many gallons they put on. That's not modest, Rabotai. I had to take a babysitter home one time. I told her sit in the back of the car. It was a cold night. I said, sit in the back of the car. She went into the car, Rabotai. My whole car was with perfume. I had no choice but to open the whole windows. It's asur. You're not allowed to have a girl walk into even a bus where she's fully perfumed, because these things can set a guy on. That's what, Rabotai, we have to understand. What does the Torah require of us, and not what we think is required of us. We think what we're doing today, where you have, unfortunately, Rabotai, I'm not telling you if a woman is speaking to a woman, that's one thing. I came across, somebody told me there was a rebbetzin giving a shiur to men and women. She was standing in the front and she was giving a lecture to men and women. Absolutely not allowed, Rabotai. There's not one rabbi that's going to allow you. He told me, they told me it was the rabbi's wife that was giving the shiur. She was more giving it for women, but the men were sitting there. Not allowed, Rabotai. A woman, when she speaks, especially in front of men, she will act differently. She will stand differently. She will have a different posture. Rabotai, it can, chas v'sham. I don't want to tell you right now, there's in Even HaEzer, something. Let me see if I can find it. 1 second. Let me see. I think it's in Chaf Gimel. In Even HaEzer, 1 second. Where did it go? Right here. In Even HaEzer, I think it's Chaf Gimel. Let me see if I can find it. Halacha better. I want to show you something, Rabotai. Forget about women standing in the middle of a classroom in the middle of a lecture room, whatever it is. I want to see something. Let me just see something. Chav Gimel. Here, let me see. Chav Gimel. Okay. No. One second. Rabotai, if I could find halacha, let me see. Maybe it's Chav Aleph. 1 second. Chav Aleph. Okay, 1 second. Okay, here we go. Here. Rabotai, I found it. Even Ha'ezer, halacha of Aleph. I haven't done this halacha in a very long time. So I thought it was halacha of Gimel. I'll tell you why I thought it was halacha of Gimel. Because over there it speaks about a whole different halacha, that it is a sur for a person. Let me see over here. Right, over there it speaks about Chas Shalom Zer L'Batala, and if you bring yourself to that, that's why I thought it was that. But it's in halacha of Aleph. The Shulchan Aruch says, listen what the Shulchan Aruch writes. Tzarich Adam lit'rachek mehanashim me'od. The Shulchan Aruch paskins in Even Ha'ezer in Simon 21 halacha Aleph. A guy has to distance himself from women very, very much. What do you mean very? What? They're so dangerous? Rabotai, yes. He says, "V'asur likros biyadav." You're not allowed to hinder her with your hands, or with your feet. V'lormos be'enav, or to hint with your eyes. Le'echad meharayot, to any woman which is forbidden on you. V'asur lischok ima la'kel rosh kinegda. You're not allowed to be in a light-headed manner. You cannot have You cannot do that with another woman. If she's not your wife, you cannot do it. Even if she's your wife, when she's a nida, you're not allowed to do it also, because we're afraid you could sin with her. He says, "Ola bid bi yofiha." You're not even allowed to look at her beautiness, at her beauty. Va'afilu la'harich besamim shalecha asur. Even to smell the perfume on her, it's asur. Va'asur leistakel benashim shomudot ala kibisa. You're not allowed to look at women that are standing on the river bank and doing laundry. Rabotai, if you look into the Gemara there on this case, the Gemara says that they used to go ahead and pick up their dresses this much above their ankle, so the ankle shouldn't get wet. And the Gemara over there says that if a person went through it and he closed his eyes, where he had another way to go and he didn't go, because that way is longer and this way is shorter, the Gemara says, the Gemara calls him a rasha. Even if he closes his eyes, what about today, Rabotai? What's going to be today? But this is what I want to show you. Ve'asur listakel bebigdei tziv'unim shel isha shu makir afil en alecha shema yavo leharher ba. Rabotai, it's asur for you to even look at a woman's colored clothing. I'm not talking about the woman's body. A woman's clothing, if you one time saw that it was on her. Now back then they used to do laundry and they used to put it on the ropes to dry them. You can't even look at that, because by looking at the clothing, it could come to make you think about the woman. And today you want to tell me when a woman gives shiur, how much more sure you see her in front of you? Rabotai, I'm telling you, I'm trying to bring out a point. What the Torah requires of us and what we're required to do, the other way around. What the Torah requires of us and what we're requiring of ourselves is not one and the same. It's not one and the same, Rabotai. The Torah requires of us completely different. We will be surprised. You'll come to the next world, you thought you were married, you thought you were learning Torah, you thought you were putting on tefillin. You'll be surprised how many things we're not doing right. This is why we have to learn halachot. Rabotai, I'm telling you, this is why we have to learn halachot. He continues and he says, Paga isha bashuk asur lahalech aharecha. If you met a woman on the street, you cannot walk after her. And he continues, Rabotai, you have to try to go to the side. You shouldn't be walking behind a woman. Guys, they speak over the bash, they go on, the Achronim go on to explain why. Listen, we're adults over here. I'm not telling you, so I'm not making things up. When a woman walks, things move. Everything by a woman moves, and these things can turn a guy on. All I'm just trying to show you over here, we have to understand what the halacha requires of us, and what are we doing? Are we really living a life of what halacha requires? Are we living a stage life of what we want to do? And that's a very big problem today. But I've seen it too many times. And this one comes up with this question. 90% of the question that I get is nothing in accordance with halakha. So why do people do it? I don't have an answer. Ask the Rabbanim. Why are you asking me? Is it my fault that people are ignorant? Is it my fault that all day people are learning stories and midrashim? I said this before, I'm saying it again. Rabotai, you don't understand how long it takes to go ahead and make one lecture. The preparation that's involved in making a lecture. I went out of my way, Blaine Har, Baruch Hashem, we had the Zuchut with Aaron Biyachad, DJ Abraham, on his Biyachad channel. We started doing specifically 5 separate shiurim. Halacha, Mishnah, Gemara. And this is Mussar. I'm also thinking about doing Chumash, giving people opportunity to go ahead and learn. I'm not saying that there's no Torah out there. There's a lot of Torah out there. But I'm trying to do it a little bit more in depth, where it's not just yes or no. In any event, Rabotai, I'm trying to educate. Rabotai, we're trying to educate. We're trying to educate not only ourselves, but also the people out there. See what the halacha requires of you. See how you're living life according to halacha. If you want to be able to have on you the title where it says, Vayu Chaye Sarah Me'er Shana V'Esrim Shana V'Sheva Shanim Shenei Chaye Sarah. If you want to be like Sarah Remeinu, that when you die, that's considered to be living, you have to know what the Torah requires of you. You have to know what the Torah requires of you. You don't know. How do you know when you wake up in the morning that you're washing your hands the right way? How do you know? How does a guy know that he puts on tefillin the right way? I've seen too many times in shul people put the tefillin below over here, too high over here, on the below the bicep. You will be surprised, Rabotai. You will be surprised. They're not yotze the mitzvah. They're not. In any event, let's continue, guys. This is one piece I want to show you. Another piece I want to share with you today. In the Sefer Bezot Yavo Aharon. The Sefer is by Rabbi Aharon Pesen Shlita. He brings down in Pasha Chaye Sarah and he says, something strange that happened. He says, Vatamat Sarah Bikriyat Arba'i Chevron Be'eretz Canaan, Vayevo Avraham Lispod L'Sarah V'Livkota. Something fascinating happened over here. Comes Rabbi Aharon Pesen and he says like this. And Sarah Remeinu, she died in Kriyat Arba, which is in Chevron, which is in the land of Canaan. And who came to eulogize her? Avraham. Comes Rabbi Aharon Pesen and he asks a question. Ikel Meidak, Vayitzchak Hechen Haya. Where was Yitzchak Avinu? Why didn't Yitzchak Avinu come and eulogize his mom? Today, if you tell me a son not going to come to his mother's eulogy, you're going to think the guy's not normal. Where was Yitzchak Avinu? Why didn't he eulogize his mom? Why did Aaron Avinu was the only one eulogizing? It says clearly, Vayevo Avraham Lispod L'Sarah V'Livkota. Avram came to eulogize Sarah and he came to cry. But where's Yitzchak Avinu? Where's his son? Didn't Sarah maybe give him everything? What? Do you want what? Isn't it true that he also probably came and he also actually went and he eulogized his mom and he cried also? So why isn't it written? You can't tell me that he wasn't there. He had to be there. Rabotai, so why does the Torah take that out? Why does it omit that Yitzchak Avinu went there and he also eulogized? Rabotai, one more time. Comes Rabbi Aharon Pesen Shita and he says, why does the pasuk have to say that Aaron Avinu only eulogized his wife? But what about Yitzchak? Where was Yitzchak? What? You want to tell me that he didn't eulogize his mom? But then he says it can be. It has to be that he had to be there. So if he had to be there, why didn't the Torah document it? You could learn something else from it, Chas v'Shalom. Rather comes Rabbi Aharon Pesen Shlita and he says, Eila shemipor remez, Rather, it's a hint to this that's brought down in Masech Sanhedrin in page 22, side 2. A woman, when she dies, the only one that suffers, the only one that feels the real suffering is the husband. If you look into Masech Sanhedrin, there also in Chavbet Amud Bet, also says the other way around. When a husband dies, the real pain who feels is only the wife, not the children. Yeah, the children have to go ahead and they have the whole year of mourning, yes. But who feels that great loss is the spouses. That's what Rabotai is very, very important. A lot of us don't see this. We don't appreciate our wives. We are ingrates, I don't want to use that word, but that's how it is. How much do they do for us? Or the other way around, the spouses, the wives should know how much does the husband do for them. Rabotai, we're always arguing, always this, always that. You didn't do this, you didn't. Why don't you look actually at how much my husband does, at how much my wife does? In the end, chas v'shalom, when she's not there, when he's not there, you're going to feel that void. Nobody else. The children are married, they're moving on with their lives. You will be home by yourself in a room 4x4 with 4 walls, and nobody's going to be there with you. Your kids can come visit you, your grandkids can come visit you, but your wife won't be there with you. Your husband won't be there with you. Why not appreciate them while they're still alive? That's what Rabotai, the whole reason why it was not, why it didn't say Yitzchak, because Yitzchak was really there. But the Torah wanted to teach us, they want to hint to us that the real void that a person feels is the husband. In this case, when Sarah Minu died, the real void was for Avram Avinu. He's the one who felt the main pain, the main anguish than anyone else. Rabotai, how to do that? How to make it in a way where we can go ahead and make the relationship better? How? How's that possible that you have a husband who does everything for his wife, a wife does everything for his husband? Somehow they're always fighting. How's that possible? What, don't you see? So Rabbi Aaron Pessin brings down here and he says, if you pay close attention in the part of Chayei Sarah, he says about Rivka, Vatemaher vatored kadam me'alecha. She quickly lowered her, the jar of water which was on her. Vatomer, and she said to Eliezer, Sheteh, drink. V'gam gamalecha ashken. Also your camels, I will give them to drink. Va'esht v'gam ha'gemalim hishkata. So Eliezer says, I drank, and also she gave my camels to drink. Beautiful. Comes Rabbi Aharon Pesach Shlitan, and he says, Hine nish'alti l'torach mahu di'a Rivka l'Eliezer shitashka gam et gamalav. Why did Rivka have to go ahead and tell Eliezer that I will give your camels to drink? She could have done that without informing Eliezer, correct? She could have just went ahead and gave the water to the camels. Did she have to tell, okay, Eliezer, you drink water, and I will give your camels water? What, is she comparing Eliezer to camels? Are camels human beings? But now you have another problem, he says. Is Rivka taking honor to what she wants to do? Why did she have to inform Eliezer that she's going to give the camels to drink? Is she adorning herself in this attribute of giving? Vishavti, he says, and I replied, he says, maybe you can say it like this. Apimadi ita b'gemor Masech Shabbat Daf Yud Amud Bet. Ve'amar Rabba bar Machsia. Amar Rav Chama bar Guria Amar Rav. He says, I can answer like this in what it says in Masechet Shabbat in page 10, side 2. Rabba, the son of Machsaya, said in the name of Rav Chama, the son of Guria, who said in the name of Rav. Hanoten matana lecha vero. Whenever somebody gives a present to his friend, tzarich lehodi, or you need to inform him. You can't just do it just like that. You have to go ahead and inform them. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, "L'da'at ki ani Hashem mikadeshechem." Like the pasuk says in Shemot, I am Hashem, your God that sanctifies you. Sanctifies you. Now I want to ask you a question, Rabotai. I want to just, before we continue, if we look into Shemot, in Paragraph Al, that's chapter 31, in verse 13. Let's just go to verse 12 first. Vayomer Hashem al Moshe lemor. Hashem said to Moshe, saying, Ve'ata, and you, the Bnei Israel, say to the Jewish people, lemor, saying, Ach et Shabbatotai tishmoru, guard my Shabbat, ki odi beni u benechem, because it's a sign between me and you, lidorotechem, for generations. Listen what Hashem concludes. L'da'at ki ani Hashem mikadeshchem, to know that I am Hashem that sanctifies you. 1 second, something doesn't make sense over here. If it begins over here saying that Hashem is speaking to Moshe, and Moshe has to deliver the message to the Jewish people, Rabotai, we're in Parshat Shemot. Don't the Jewish people already know that anything that Moshe passes down to us is from Hashem? So is Hashem taking credit to say? Is Hashem trying to teach us something? Why did Hashem have to say, why do you have to say that? To let them know that I am Hashem, their God that is sanctifying them. Comes Rabotai over here, Rabbi Aaron Pes, and he wants to teach you a very important concept. Whenever you do something for somebody, a lot of us will think that it's out of the way. It doesn't make sense. By me saying, okay, I bought you this pencil, I bought you this gift, I did this for you, I did that for you. By us, we're going to look at it, we're going to think of it. Why are you bragging about it? Why are you showing off? And that's the Torah's perspective to tell you, absolutely not. That is not showing off. You have to, Rabotai. Not almost sometimes, but almost every time you have to remind the other person what you do for them. Because sometimes we forget. We are individuals of forgetting things. And it's okay. Babe, did you know I paid for this? Did you know you weren't paying attention? This got done, the cleaning lady came, I opened the door. When you inform the person the things that you do, and it's not that you're taking pride or you want to brag about it. That's what we think, and that's the problem once again. What is the Torah lens and what is our lens? Our lens is the media lens. That's why we think it's bad. The Torah lens says, no, go tell them that you did it. Why? Rabotai, to inform them so they should know who to give the hakar datov back, who to be grateful for. And that's what he says, and our mothers, our foremothers were fulfilling the whole Torah even before it was given. That's what Rivka told Eliezer, and I will give your camels to drink. She wanted to throw that in, not to brag about it, not to adorn herself with it, but to inform him that I'm doing something now also for your camels. When Eliezer knew that, that's why when he went back and he told Abraham, automatically, that is the type of wife I want from my son, Yitzchak. That's what he told Rabotai. It's all about that. And you have to understand, you have to know where to be humble and where not to be humble. And I'll tell you another thing. A lot of times, children, they go to school. B'lian Hara, a lot of children, they go to expensive yeshivas. Yeshivas today are not $300,000, $200,000 what it was back then. I remember going to yeshiva for $50 a month. You could have paid for food stamps for all I care. Today, $1,100, $1,200, $13, $15, and they do need the help. But I ask you like this. And by the way, and that's besides the lunch money you have to give them, and that's besides the supplies you have to buy them, and that's besides the transportation, and that's besides everything else that you do for the children. Tell me, do you think the children know what you're doing for them? And then we want to know, why aren't our children grateful for us? Why should they be? They don't know what's flying. They don't know what's flying. I'll tell you, one of my children one time, whatever, they decided to stay home. Okay, so once you see one child does it, you know how it goes. The next, everybody follows suit. Okay, so I really didn't want them to stay home. We're not feeling well. So I said, something, my wife said, please let them stay home. Okay, so let them stay home. The next day another child began. The next day another child began. I told the children, I said, from now on, I want X amount of money on the table every time you guys miss school. Like, why we have to pay you money? Why we have to pay you money? I said, it's very simple. You go to school, Abba has to pay money for that. What do you mean you have to pay money? I thought school was free. No, school is not free. My kids didn't understand that school was there's a tuition that Abba has to pay. Abba and Ima have to pay. They didn't know that. They thought dry cleaning just gets done. They thought the cleaning lady that comes and she just cleans for free. They thought the food that you get when you go out with the restaurant, they think it's free. How are they supposed to know? The clothes that they wear, they think it's free. When you educate the child, they start understanding and they start taking school more serious. And that's how I speak. You don't want to go to school, don't waste money. Go to work. Not a big deal. I'm not telling you, go to work. You want to go to school, I'll pay for it, but at the same time, I need you to learn. And this is what a lot of children today, they don't see. They think they're doing the parents a favor by going to yeshiva. They don't understand it would have been easier for us to put them to public school and let them deal with all the fights and drugs and everything that's there and understand what life is about. And yeshiva is like another for them. They come safe, they leave safe, the environment, kosher food, boys' school, girls' school. You don't have to see garbage, you don't have to experience nothing else. But this is what we have to tell our kids. Am I bragging? No. We're showing the kids what's right, what's wrong. And this is exactly what the Parsha in Chayesar is teaching us. Why did Rivka have to tell Eliezer, I'm going to give you camels to drink? That one simple reason. Like the Gemara says in Masech Shabbat and Daf Yud Amud Bet, whenever you do something for somebody, when you give them a present, you have to inform them. And the same thing to come back to our question with the husband and wife. Each one has to show the other what they're really doing. Babe, I prepared food for you. I made sure your closet is ready. The table downstairs is ready where you learn. And so on and so forth. When you come home, you don't have to worry. When the husband knows, again, I'm not telling you that she has done every little thing. But sometimes we have to remind each other of what we do. And that's when we're going to be able to go ahead and build the relationship. Because, if you're not going to do that, what's going to happen? Like we saw in the previous pasuk. When Chas v'Shalom, one of the spouses die, the real pain, the real agony, who's going to have it? The husband is going to feel it. The wife is going to feel that void. And they're going to regret, why didn't I ever say a good word to my wife? Why didn't I ever say a good word to my husband? Rabotai, doesn't cost you nothing. To say, I took care of this, I took care of that, you don't have to worry about. Trying to take that burden off our spouse. Trying to make our spouse's life easier. That's what life is about. That's what marriage is about, Rabotai. It goes back to the same concept. Living a marriage and not staging a marriage. Continues Rabbi Harun Pessin, another chiddush. I think there's one more. Let's do one more. He has over here, if you look into the verse, it says, Vayitze Yitzchak latzuch basadeh. Let me just over here, let me just get the verse for you. Chavdalet Samach Gimel. This is a very beautiful Peshat, Rabotai. This is going to go back to prayer actually. What does it mean to speak to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? And I tell you something, no matter how much Torah, no matter how much Torah you learn, it's not even a drop in the ocean. But the honest truth is, if you look into the whole Torah, everything is about communication. Everything's about speaking things out, having it clear, not wasting time and going in the ways of Hashem. Let me see this. Samach Gimel. Okay. Here. Okay, here. Let me read the pasuk from over here. And I just want to show you what Rashi says, because there's different understandings that you can understand the pasuk. Always remember, whenever you learn Torah, especially whenever you learn the verse from the Torah, you have to see how the rabbis they interpret that pasuk. You can't take it at the way it is. Okay, it says like this: Vayitze Yisrael latzuch basadeh Yitzchak. Latzuch basadeh literally means Yitzchak went out into the field, if not erev, towards the evening. Vayisa einav vayara v'hine gemolim ba'im. He picked up his eyes and he saw, here comes the camels were coming. Rashi doesn't want to learn that the word lasuach means that he went out. Rashi wants to learn the word lasuach means like this. Lashon tefillah. It's a language of prayer. So whenever we see the language where it says Yitzchak lasuch basadeh, it means that Yitzchak went out into the field to pray. I just want to read the Rashi for you. We'll see it over here also. He's going to bring it down also from in Bereshit Rabbah also is brought down. Okay. So he says like this. So in Bereshit Rabbah, it says that when Yitzchak went out into the field towards the evening, he says this word lasuach ein sicha ela tefillah. Whenever we say the word sicha, it means tefillah, it means prayer. Shneimar, like says in the pasuk, tefillah le'oni, a prayer for a poor man, And who's poor, Rabotai? The Jewish people, they're known as a poor nation. Ki ya'atov, when he wraps himself, meaning when their soul is in distress. V'lefnei Hashem yishpoch sicho. And before Hashem, he pours out his plea. So we see clearly from this verse from Tehillim that what does that mean? Sicho literally means a plea, like praying. V'chen hu omer, so the pasuk says in Tehillim in chapter 55 in verse 18, Erev avoker v'toharaim asicha v'gomer. Basically, David Melech is saying, in the evening, in the morning, and in the afternoon, I complained. Comes Rashi on the verse and explains, what does it mean? Evening, morning, and the noon, that I complained? He wants to say, Tefillat Aravit, Shacharit, and Mincha, the morning prayer. I'm sorry, the evening prayer, the morning prayer, and the afternoon prayer. That's what David Melech was saying, that I davened them. I came and I spoke to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Now I want to show you something very interesting. He said like this, Ita bikitvei ha'ari zal. It's written in the Arizal. Sicha, whenever you take the word sicha, which is spelled shin, yud, chet, and hey, if you break up the letter, you have sach, ya, shin, chet, and then you have the yud, and then you have the hey. If you put them apart, sach over here, ya over here, what does that want to teach you? Or he wants to tell you, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he rests on every single letter in the Torah and the Tefillah and everything else in a concealing way. Comes Rabbi Aaron Pes and he says, oh, I can also add like this. The Tefillah nikret sicha. Why is Tefillah called sicha? Mishum shebetefillah zocheh adam ledaber im Hashem. Because in prayer, a person has the zechut, the merit, to go ahead and speak with Hashem. How? If you take the word sicha, it goes sach im ya. I'm speaking with Hashem. And again he says, if you take sicha and if you rearrange the words, instead of saying shin yud chet hey, you're going to say chash. Take chet and shin together, chash, and then take ya, meaning Hashem's name. שבתפילה צריך המתפלל לחוש את השם. When a person is davening, you have to feel Hashem. וכאילו הוא נוכח מולו ממש. It's as if he's in front of you. Rabotai, just give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second. I think this is also a halach in the Shulchan Aruch. I should have prepared beforehand. It just came to me right now. See if I can get it. I believe it's tzaddik. Something tzaddik. You know, why do I like to incorporate always halakha? Because I need people to understand that Mussar is not only, when we speak Mussar, is not only something good to do, but a lot of these things are actually a halakha Shulchan Aruch in the... 1 second, let's see this. No, not Simon Tzaddik, okay, not there. Can be, it's a Tzaddik bet, probably it's a Tzaddik bet. Let's be going for just to go to the restroom. Okay, no. Oh, yes. Tzaddik chet. How could I forget? Tzach. The person has to be clear. When he davens, the person has to have kavanah, clear kavanah. That's what it means. Tzach. Okay. Rabotai, if you look into Shulchan Aruch or Chaim in Siman 98, in Halacha Aleph, the Shulchan Aruch says, "Hamitpalel, one who davens, tzarich shechem bilibo pirush hamilot shemotzi b'svatav." You have to have kavanah in your heart, meaning you have to think in your mind the words that are coming out of your mouth. And here we go. This is what I want to show you. V'yachshov ki'ilu shechina kinegdo. A person has to think in his mind as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in front of him. And this is why one of the halachot is brought down that you're not allowed to pass before a person that's down in Shemon Ezra, because the Shekhinah is over there. Within the four mot, the Shekhinah is there. That's actually also one halachah in the Shulchan Aruch. I don't know if I should get into this right now. 1 second. Okay. Rabotai, the halacha is also... 1 second. Okay. Okay. Rabbi, it's the halach in the Shulchan Aruch. I just can't find it right now. And so on and so on. So 1 second. Okay. What's that? Okay, it's fine. I'm doing this no. No. Okay, fine. Okay, it's fine. Maybe it's here 1 second. Okay, it's fine. Rabotai. There's a halach in the Shulchan Aruch which I can't seem to find it right now, that speaks about how one is not allowed to pass before one who's actually davening Shemona Esrei. Okay, Rabotai, it's fine. I can't find it, but it's a halach also somewhere there in the Shulchan Aruch. I'm not going to waste the time. But we see from over here, we see from the halach in the Shulchan Aruch, in Sibon Tzadik Chet in halach Aleph, where it says that a person has to see to it as if a Kadosh Baruch Hu is standing in front of him. So that's what Rabbi Aaron Pesach's son goes over here. When you look at the word Sicha, when it says Vayetei Yitzchak Lasuch Basem, when Yitzchak went out to speak in the field, it says if you take the word Sicha, which means prayer, and you play around with the words, you're going to get Chashya. A person has to feel Hashem. When you're down, you have to really feel that you have to really feel that you're speaking to somebody. It's as if, when we're speaking to our friend, we feel that we're having a conversation. But when we speak to Hashem, when we're davening to Hashem, excuse me, we don't have that sense of feeling that the words that I'm saying is really meaningful. So that's what Rabbi Aaron Pesach's son goes over here, that you want to have that feeling when you're speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sicha hi siach Hashem litpalel Hashem. Another way you could say sicha is to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Umikan hora'ah. And from here it comes to teach you from this verse where it says Vayetei Yitzchak lasuch basadeh. It comes to tell you la'adam shekol sicho yirad bidvarav shel Hashem. Rabotai, a person's whole speech should only be words of Hashem. Vezo sicha amitit. And this is the real speaking. A person's whole being, a person's whole inner self should only be about Hashem, about His Torah, about His mitzvot. Why should anything else be important? And it goes back, Rabotai. We have to start living a life of Torah and not staging a life of Torah. Are we really living and preparing for the next world? Or are we only staging our lives, thinking we're living a Torah life? That is up to each one of us to decide. Rabotai, have a great day. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu send each and every one of us siyata d'shemaya, a lot of atzlach, a lot of bracha, a lot of parnasa. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should open up our minds, Rabotai, to see the emet, to understand the emet, and to be able to live the emet without having to be influenced by the outside world. Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen.